Okay, I would like to call this regular meeting of the Issaquah School Board Thursday, July 11th, 2024 to order, and we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item on our agenda this morning is public comment. Is there any public comment about items that are not listed on our agenda for this morning? I see no hands raised at this time. So we will move on to our second item on the agenda, which is approval of the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Oh, Matt, I couldn't tell by the hand. Was that a yes?
Sorry, I was aye. I thought it meant yes. Yes,
Perfect.
raising my hand. Yes.
I'm having trouble seeing everyone because of the pin. Can we move the pin spotlight so we can see all the board members and everyone? Just so I see gallery view, please. Next item on our agenda is establishment of the regular agenda. Are there any changes, Superintendent?
There are no changes.
Okay, so the first item on our regular agenda is pro/con statement committee appointment for the ballot propositions.
Would you like to start with a motion, or are we going to discuss?
I'd rather not start with a motion just because it would be kind of hard to do. You see there's blanks on our motion language. So I think I'll start with I can either start with framing, or if our superintendent wants to start with framing, I will happy to do either.
I can start us off and then pass it to Martin Turney, who is at the podium to speak a bit about our process, but we solicited applications for both a pro and con statement for the bond initiative and resolution that was put forward by the board. And we wanted to share that update so the board could take action on appointing to those committees.
Okay, thank you. It is a requirement of the district to appoint up to 3 applicants to the pro and con committees. We had an application process open for nearly 2 weeks, closing on July 3rd. We received 9 total applicants for pro, 5 con. They've been forwarded to the board for consideration. And once those appointments have been made, we will forward those names on to King County.
Thank you. So a little bit of framing from our side. So I think 2022 was the first year that the board had applications for this and did this process, but to my knowledge, we didn't have more than 3. So here we have more than 3, and therefore it's on our agenda. And because there's more than 3 is why I didn't have it on consent agenda, because this would be a discussion. But we will need to select up to 3 for pro and up to 3 for con, and we'll pause at this moment to take any public input on this item for the pro/con committee appointment. Is there any public input? Nope, seeing none. So certainly, I think historically we have recognized slates of folks that have been representative of our community. We know that what we see through the pros is a slate of 3 people who have been very active in the past with supporting school funding measures. The 4th one is a current Beaver Lake Middle School student, and I would encourage our adults to recognize and wrap in the student voice into this process. For the cons, I think that we know that there is expected response from folks that live closest to the project, and they have been vocal throughout this process. And I think our community would expect and be surprised if they weren't included as part of this dialogue. But I wanted to open up to the board for some thoughts before we move into a motion.
I'm sorry, I'm just not quickly seeing the hand raise, so I could just go. Yep, I think what you just said for sure on the pro side makes sense to me. We have experienced folks, and I love the addition of student voice in the process. My recommendation, my hope would be that if we were to select the group of 3 that's applied, that we can ask of them to seek that input from the student. So I think that works for me on the pro side. I think on the excuse me, on the con side, not knowing more than the bit we were provided, I guess my suggestion would be, I'm not clear on the 3rd entry or the 5th person about all the information Fred and the others was not here. So for me, maybe what I would do is lean toward the group of 3 in this case, just in reading what they've submitted.
Thank you. Other board members?
I would just second that. I agree with that same approach for both the pro and con individuals.
Thank you.
I think for me as well, I think what was most unfortunate is that all of the con people are from the same area, part of the district. So I think that's going to be unfortunate. There's no way for us to get more geographical diversity in the con statement. So I think at this point, selecting those 3 people, I'm uncertain. I was not able to find out any information about the PAC that they're related to. I don't know if anyone else was, but I assume that they're going to be able to get their message across one way or the other. So I think providing them this opportunity is acceptable.
Thank you.
I just concur with everything that's been said, and to your point, Director Gallagher, about the folks living near the project have certainly had a point of view that, probably needs to be aired. And, I would support that as well as the con statements. And I think it's a good group of folks for the pro statements as well. So.
And I hadn't thought about that, Director Moraldo, that all the folks are coming from the same part of the school district. So, I mean, I think that gives me less heartburn in choosing the grouping of 3 that are already more organized. So that makes sense to me. You have your hand up.
Yeah, I think it's interesting though that we keep saying the project because it's a project and there's a lot of projects. And so again, the other unfortunate thing is I think everything will be focused on the con on one project. And there's a lot of other projects that then will be at jeopardy.
Good point.
So I think we're seeing some consensus building. So I would entertain a motion at this point.
Let me pull up the language here. I move the board appoint the following individuals. Don Peschik, Wright Knoll, Carista Smith Barney to the pro committee, and Sam Lynn, Daniel Sreebney, Michelle Williams to the con committee for resolution 1223, general obligation bonds dash $642,345,000.
Second.
Is there any discussion? We take a vote. Is there anything else you would need from our side, Superintendent?
Nope, just making sure we have this process set up for public discussion and motion and potential action.
Perfect. Any more discussion, comments, thoughts from the board?
Yeah, just maybe I think that Director Moraldo hit on something that's super important, and so it's worth us restating, which is this is a very large, well thought out, community-backed recommendation that's been taken that is made up of many projects that span the entire stretch of our district and therefore serves multiple communities. And so I'm happy that people come forward in either capacity in order to participate in this process. And I would just hope and ask in both cases, there is thoughtful consideration of that fullness of what this proposal is about, and that is reflected in the comments that come forward.
Yes, I think that I will just do a quick screen share so people can see what we're talking about. Actually, it doesn't look like I have the ability. Wait, do I? Yeah. To what both Director Moraldo and Director Moynes have said. It's the project list and all the impact across our district. And the pink dots are where all of our students live. So thank you for correcting me where I misspoke of talking about the project when it's really a whole litany of projects to benefit every student in our school district. So thank you for that clarity. That really. Any other questions, discussion? Thank you. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion as stated, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Perfect. That motion passes. Does that have the clarity that you need, Superintendent?
Yes, thank you very much.
Perfect. Next item on our agenda is WASDA, which is Washington State School Directors Association General Assembly Bylaw Proposal for Student Representatives. In your board packet were two things. One was a very long 2-page proposal, which was what was submitted by a group of 5 school districts led by Shoreline Public Schools for modifying the WASDA bylaws with all of that language to highlight the role of student representatives. The WASDA board felt that there was too much prescriptive language that would typically be seen in policy or procedure. And while the WASDA board firmly supports the role of student representatives, felt that that should be stated in a much more succinct way and allow for the policy part of the WASDA organization to be the repository for the prescriptive language and descriptions for responsibilities, roles, and allocation of resources. So I offered to move through an amendment, which would then create strike-through language of all of the 2 pages. I worked in concert with the original author to formulate more vision-building language and what we would hope for WASDA board and committees, as well as all school boards in our state, for the role of student voice. And so all of that would be struck through and replaced with the paragraph that was also submitted to your board packet. And with that, wanted to ask Director Moraldo, since she was at the meeting as well, if there's anything else she wanted to add for perspective.
Yeah, I think that we had a discussion as part of the beliefs and resolutions, NSB, as part of the bylaws and policies committee, that really, the language that was in the packet from the neighboring school district was quite extensive and not something you would put in a bylaws. A lot of that is policy and procedures. So we really talked about the fact that part of the problem is how we have the dates set. So any bylaw changes need to be in 90 days before General Assembly. However, it takes us like 85 days to print out the information, sending out to the printer what the packet's going to be. And so there really needs to be better time frame. So bylaw changes are significant changes, should be well thought through. And so the committee is looking at changing the bylaws in the future to be 180 days before General Assembly to put in. So that gives us time, because the board literally was told, hey, we need to get this out to press tomorrow. You need to vote today, whether or not you recommend it or not. So that was, there's that. So from a process standpoint, that's just not something that is really conducive. And then really, how do we take a point from a committee to be able to talk through some of these, go back to maybe the proposing organization or district and ask for amendments or talk about different places for this, because this really should be something that would be in the policies. So I do like the succinctness of Harlan's language, that we can say in the bylaws that, yes, we will have student representatives and a student representative network as WASDA to support students and student representatives.
Because the amendment window is very short. It must be approved by the whole board of the submitting school district. And essentially, we're the first ones leading off in July, and then it will circulate its way through numerous school districts that were part of the 5 that originally submitted, and probably others that Director Taylor would connect with through his network that he's building. So I wanted to open up for any questions. Director Muller?
He's terrible at Zoom. So just so I understand the disposition of the longer proposal. So is that essentially just off the table, or is it still working through its own process?
If we approve the amendment, the amendment would be to approve the language of the paragraph, and it would strike through all what vote was submitted.
Yes, I guess what was stuck in my head is, are we making a competing proposal, or literally like all would agree that that other one goes away totally and this would be the net new one?
It would be replacement.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, that was my question.
So Shoreline and the other districts are willing to withdraw?
Wouldn't be withdrawing, right? Because you can't, like, that's the whole thing about what you just said. Like, we've come up past the publication date. This would be in the version 2 of the handbook that will come out in about a month, which would include the amendments.
Because I'm wondering back to process wise, and this is something we can figure out from Tim Garchaw's, that because the other one is already forward, I think it will have both this and the amendment. And so we could vote on the amendment. So this will be proposed, then the amendment will be proposed. And if the amendment passes by the body, the original proposal will be amended with these words, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Other questions? Ready? I'll entertain a motion.
I move the board approves the bylaw proposal, student representatives with amended language as presented.
Second.
Is there any public input before we go on to board discussion? Public input? Any further discussion or questions from the board? No? Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. Perfect. Thank you, Superintendent, for letting us add that to the agenda today, and appreciate it. And thank you, board members, for your flexibility for us having not consent only agenda in July that impacted all of our work days. So I appreciate your flexibility in that and in moving the time. And thank you as we try and fit this all into our schedules that are daytime. Any parting thoughts, Superintendent?
I just wish that good summer to everyone and hope everyone gets rest and relaxation.
Yes. On behalf of the board, for you and your team, we wish the same and hope that you guys get time to renew. And I know you started planning for this upcoming school year months ago. So we appreciate all the work that you guys are doing, but do want you guys to also rest and renew. So it's going to be a busy fall. Okay. Thank you, everyone. With that.